Hello again. I am going to tell you another story from Open the Book. Now, I need a little bit of help with this one because in the middle of the story, there's a rather exciting bit. There is an earthquake that happens. And so when you hear me say the words, they heard another noise, a low rumbling, I need you to start patting the floor or the desk really lightly where you are. And then it needs to get a little bit louder and a little bit louder and a little bit louder until I say stop. Now, I'm sure your teachers can pause the video and have a little practice with you of that. But that would be really helpful if you could do that. And then we can imagine the earthquake happening. Well, today I'm going to tell you more about the life of St. Paul. And at the start of today's story, Paul and his friend Silas have been thrown into prison for helping a slave girl to get better. He keeps getting into trouble, doesn't he, Paul? Why would they be put in prison for doing such a kind thing? Well, the girl's cruel master made her tell fortunes to earn money for him. When she got better, she didn't want to tell fortunes anymore, and her master was very angry and had Paul and Silas thrown into prison. What will happen to Paul and Silas now? Will they get out of prison, or will things get even worse for them? Well, let's open the book and read Prison Praise. Paul sneezed. Achoo! His nose was itching, but he couldn't scratch it. Silas sneezed. Achoo! He peered at Paul through the gloom. It was dark, very dark. Paul and Silas were sitting on the floor of a prison. Their arms were chained to the wall. Their feet were chained to the floor. Their backs were sore where they had been beaten. I don't know why we've ended up in prison, said Silas. All you did was make that poor slave girl better. Ah, said Paul, but our owners can't make any money from fortune telling now, so they're very angry with me. So we ended up here in this underground cell in the dark with no chance of getting out tonight, shivered Silas. The chief jailer sneezed. Achoo! He rubbed his nose. He rubbed his arms. The night air was chilly as he stood outside the prison. I've counted the prisoners. I've checked the bolts on their chains. I've put the bars on the doors. There's no way anyone is leaving the prison tonight. No chance, he said. He said good night to the other guards and went home, confident that he had carried out his orders. So Paul and Silas sat chained to the wall in the dark, unable to sleep. Their backs were sore. Their heads ached. They were hungry and thirsty. So what were they doing? Were they crying? No. Were they complaining? No. Were they shouting, "Let us out"? No. They were singing. Yes, singing. The other prisoners couldn't believe their ears. They could hear the singing. But who could be singing in a place like this? What were they singing? Hymns? Someone was singing praises to God in a prison? All the prisoners listened as the songs and prayers went on and on. Then they heard another noise. A low rumbling. At first it sounded as if it was far away. Then the rumbling got louder and louder and louder, and the floor began to tremble and the walls began to shake. Then dust and dirt began to fall from the ceiling. Then bits of stone and mortar began to tumble. Everything was moving and shaking and falling. It was an earthquake. Then the chains fell off the wall. The bolts fell apart. The hands and feet were suddenly loose. Then the doors fell open so the prisoners could escape. Oh no, shouted the jailer as he ran towards the prison. Oh no, he cried, the prisoners will escape. Oh no, he groaned, I'll get all the blame. He reached the prison puffing and panting and saw that all the doors had fallen off their hinges. The prison was wide open. The prisoners have run away, he cried, fearing the worst. Then he took out his sword, and just as he was about to kill himself, Paul shouted, "Don't! Don't kill yourself! It's all right! We're all here!" The jailer was amazed and fell on his knees in front of Paul. He couldn't understand what had happened. He couldn't believe that all the prisoners were still there inside the prison. They hadn't run away after all. He knew that Paul and Silas were followers of Jesus. Did that have something to do with what was happening? Is that why they were singing in prison? Is that why they hadn't run away? "Sir," he said, "what do I have to do to be saved, to really live? How can I be like you? What do I have to do?" So Paul told him all about Jesus. Put your trust in Jesus, follow him, and he'll show you what to do. The jailer was so excited that he took them both to his home so his family could hear all about Jesus too. So Paul and Silas did two amazing things in today's story. First of all, they sang hymns of praise to God while they were chained up in prison. And secondly, they didn't escape when they had the chance. They didn't want the jailer to get into trouble. Close your eyes and think about why Paul and Silas didn't try to run out of the prison. They knew the jailer would be in trouble. He might even lose his life if his prisoners had escaped. So Paul and Silas stayed where they were. Now, I'm going to say a prayer, and if you'd like to make that prayer your own, then say Amen at the end after me. Dear God, help us to behave in the right way so that we don't get other people into trouble. Amen. So that's it for this week. We'll see you again soon with another story from Open the Book.